Everyone's least favorite flyer got reworked. Thankfully, finally, everyone's so freaking tired of pharmacy, so surely the new Pharah is going to be a lot better, right? Well, as usual, with all of the reworks, I spent time into learning whether the new character is actually better or whether it's lipstick on a pig, Road Dogg rework, and the character still has the same issues that it did in the first place. So first off, we need to ask ourselves what needed to be fixed with Pharah. What were the problems with Pharah? I think the big problems with Pharah initially was obviously that the character did really one thing, and did really one thing only well. She hovered in air with a mercy pocket and made everyone's lives miserable. She wasn't always a problem depending on the map, mostly because a lot of people did not enjoy playing Pharah, but certainly nobody enjoyed playing into Pharah. She lacked dynamics. She was either really, really good on the map in the situation with the mercy pocket, or she was really, really bad. Very one-dimensional playstyle, hover and shoot down. Let's be honest, the character just wasn't that fun to play versus or play against. Now, I know that fun is definitely subjective, but I think Pharah's pick rate being so low for so long, even going back into Overwatch 2, is a damning commentary on exactly how many people actually enjoyed Pharah. You see, there were people that enjoyed playing Pharah, but for the vast majority of people, nobody wanted to play her, nobody wanted to play into her. She demanded people play around her with the mercy pocket and range support, and just overall was a really crappy hero for the game, especially moving into Overwatch 2. So, was Pharah improved with her rework? Well, here's what I learned, at least at first. Some minor complaints. Still a little Pharah-ish in her execution. She's still basically a character that does spam. Now, how she spams and the positions that she takes to spam are differently, but it's still a little spammy. Now, that's okay. Not every hero is going to have every single issue solved, especially the first time around. Overall, the loss of two-tapping people outside of damage boost was good. Obviously, the mercy pocket can still be annoying, but it's a lot easier to deal with Pharah because she can't hover in the sky as much, so she feels less OP in that ways. More heroes can interact with her because ground Pharah, well, not ground Pharah, but flying 65 million meters in the sky, Pharah is less of a thing right now. And I think also she's more interesting to play. See, it's not just about the rework of making the character better to play into, but hopefully making the character more interesting to play as well. And I certainly enjoyed playing Pharah myself a lot more than I did in Overwatch 1 Pharah. In fact, I doubled the amount of hours I have on Pharah total within a month of playing Pharah. I did not want to touch her Overwatch 1 Pharah at all. And so actually having that adjustment was really something that made the character a lot more interesting to play. A couple other complaints. I think the jump jet cooldown is probably still too long. 14 seconds is a long time for any sort of mobility cooldown. Now, does that mean it needs to be lowered? Yes and no. It needs to be lowered, but obviously it needs to be reduced in strength, because if jump jet was given too much power or reduced in cooldown, then obviously we'd have a character that could hover again for a long period of time, and we don't really want that. So I think we should probably reduce the cooldown by a few seconds and then reduce the power of how much fuel it gives. I still really do not enjoy Barrage. I still think Barrage is one of the least interesting ultimates in the game. I even have more fun playing around with Death Blossom, Reaper's Death Blossom, than I do with Barrage. It often is just a respawn simulator. There's not a lot of different dynamics or ways to use it. It's overall just a, hey, you're dead. Oh, wait, now I'm dead too ultimate, and that's really not particularly interesting. Not a lot of mechanics and nuance in how it's used. And also, even though the self-damage from rockets was reduced, so it only does 20 damage now, it was still enough to where it made me feel like I didn't want to really use it, especially because it actually freezes the heal passive. So the heal passive is self-healing, right? Like after 5 seconds. It actually stops the timer on that. So especially when I'm on a flank by myself as Pharah, I really want to be utilizing that self-heal passive. But every time I try to use a rocket jump, I reset the timer on that. And that was really, really annoying. So that would definitely be a nice quality of life change. So a couple of tweaks I think need to be done. But overall, I think a lot better. So let's talk about the quote-unquote new playstyle. And I actually want to utilize a little bit of disclaimer here. It's really not a new playstyle. This is actually a playstyle that was very apparent even back to Overwatch 1 Pharah. It just wasn't as good, wasn't as flexible, and was really dependent on a mercy pocket. It's just something that's a lot easier to do nowadays than it ever was before. And we're going to classify 2 different playstyles. We're going to classify the Reaper flank cycle, and we're going to classify the Sojourn angle spam. Let me clarify exactly what I mean by that. Let's say the enemy team is this tank robot right here. The flank angle spam, let's say the angle spam, the Sojourn playstyle, is holding an off angle and spamming down at that target from that high ground position. If I get pushed, I can always use my mobility cooldown, in this case my dash, to disengage from that location or to deepen my angle. So I have options with how and where I want to position. Once more, I hold the angle, they start to pressure me out, I can use the mobility cooldown to disengage. And that's just a little bit closer to what the old Pharah did. Hold an off angle and spam. That's still good. There's a lot of situations that Pharah can take aggressive positions that other DPS can't take because she has so much mobility. And you're going to be doing this a lot versus basically non-hit scans. or let's say flankers, right? Let's say there's a flanker over there, like a Genji, Tracer, Moira, Lucio, dive characters. I'm baiting them to dive on top of me, and then I'm using my mobility cooldowns to get away. You can also be very aggressive with how you use your concussive blast here because I'm not so aggressively positioned, so I can use this very aggressively. And then if I get dove, I just dash out. But basically the idea is that because I'm not all the way on their backline, I'm just kind of holding a soft angle, I could just basically spam, be aggressive with my cooldowns, and then just disengage when I need to. Now, that may be good, but what if they're playing hit scan? What if there isn't really a good spam angle? What if you're just getting poked out really easily? Well, then this is the new, not the new playstyle, but the playstyle that you can actually do a little bit more self-sufficiently and certainly more consistently since the addition of number 1, the dash, and number 2, the ability for Pharah to reposition faster. She moves faster while she's flying. So this is the Reaper playstyle in the same way where a Reaper holds an off angle or flanks, onto your backline, teleports in your backline, scares a lot of people, wraiths out, and then rinse and repeat. Pharah is going to actually have the option now of going for much deeper angles and flanks, something that before was just absolutely suicide. You just get killed instantly. But with this new heal passive, with the dash, and like I said, the faster flight, you can actually sneak up on hit scan players without a mercy pocket, throw a couple of rockets, throw some cooldowns at them, and then dash away and get to safety. And then go back and do it again, and do it again, and do it again. And in many ways, your job isn't necessarily to secure kills, although that would be great. It's to scare, threaten kills, force resources, distract attention to allow your team to win on the fight, on main. And the reason we call this the Reaper playstyle versus the Sojourn playstyle is Sojourn is a character that will take softer angles, and then if she gets in trouble, will shift or slide away. Reaper will sometimes do the same, but sometimes Reaper will go for much greedier, aggressive plays, and then go try to disengage. And now Pharah has the mobility to choose which one of those makes the most sense. As I said, generally the deeper stuff is going to feel better versus hit scan, and the more passive stuff is going to feel better versus flankers. For example, if I'm on a very deep flank and I get caught with a tracer, unless I'm a mechanical freak, generally I'm going to lose that 1v1 more often than not. So let's actually talk about how you would execute this in a real map besides the training range. Overall, Pharah operates with much more self-sufficiency and with a lot more mobility, which opens up a lot of different positions that you can take even without a mercy pocket. Even sometimes ones without verticality. You still want verticality, but you don't always need verticality. Biggest thing for me was, what does the map open up to me? What options do I have depending on the map, whether it's King of the Hill, Escort, Hybrid, or Push? Be willing to play for distraction, just FYI. One of the things that I learned is, wow, people really, really tunnel Pharah. I think it's a lot of this Overwatch 1 mindset, Overwatch 2 mindset, a little bit where we want to shoot and kill Pharah more so than almost anything else. I feel like it's almost the tank experience on DPS, where the second I show my face, everyone not only focuses me down, but actually will swap to counters. If I had a dime for every single time people went Echo Mercy, Ashe, Hitscan, Tracer, Diva, every single possible thing that they could swap into me, I would be a very rich man. And I think the key thing for me is that a lot of times I had to be comfortable with just playing for distraction, just playing for indirect value, where, okay, they're all looking at me. I timed my pressure well on this flank here or this angle here. And all I'm going to do is try to play my life and run and survive. And if I can survive, then my team will butcher them because they're throwing every single resource my way. Sometimes they even make counter swaps to characters that they were clearly not good at just to counter the Pharah. I think people still have this mindset that Pharah is going to like dominate and one-tap them over and over again and fly in the sky and just, but right now it's like that's definitely not the case. And yet people are still stuck in that mindset. So it's annoying for me sometimes to always be counter-swapped and counter-picked and counter-played. But if I can counter-play the counter-pick, then it meant that a lot of times that we'd win a lot of games just because the enemy team was so hard focusing me that they'd lose to the rest of my team. So it's going to reward creativity. It's going to reward patience. And more importantly than maybe anything else, it's going to reward focus. I found the experience really, really good. Like I would be popping off. I literally won, I think, 10, 9, 11 games in a row just through distraction and harassment and living over and over again. But then there were days, in fact, the last day I played Pharah on stream, very tired the night before, didn't get a lot of sleep, wasn't as energetic, wasn't as tight, wasn't as focused. And so I go in and I play Pharah and I'm just feeding. It felt very similar to the Sombra rework, where every single little game that I played, I needed to be split-second reaction speed, like immediately reacting with the dash or immediately reacting with the concussive blaster. Oh no, the tracer's on me. I need to hit that one direct rocket to force that recall, otherwise I died. The same way with Sombra, with being able to quickly translocate, being able to hit most of my viruses. With Pharah, you're going to get punished if you're not fully tuned in. You need to be fully engaged, fully quick and responsive, especially with the number of counter swaps I was running into. And so if that's not for you, then maybe this character isn't for you. However, the character feels very rewarding when you're fully engaged, when you're fully tuned in, fully focused. You'll be able to outplay, counterplay, and just live a lot of circumstances that old Pharah just wouldn't happen. A very punishing hero for either the enemy team or for you, depending on the circumstances. Finally, when it comes to position, we've talked a lot about the Reaper versus Sojourn, the deep flanks versus the soft off angles. Just play with those play styles. Find the dynamic between the two. Don't lock in one play style. See what the map provides. See what the situation provides. Make sure that you're utilizing cover. Make sure that you're utilizing verticality whenever you can, and make sure to time your pressure well. When your team is with you, not necessarily with you, but fighting at the same time as you, that's a good time to fight. So then once you're there, you can put some thought into how do I want to use my CDs? Do I need to use my conk? Do I want to use my jet? Do I need to use my jump jet or my dash? And so on. Let's get into some review. I'm actually going to review one of my weaker games on Pharah just because I think there's a lot of topics that we can discuss on that Pharah gameplay, and I'll see you in the review. So again, I chose this VOD because I was not particularly impressed by my playstyle. So there's a lot of things, a lot of mistakes. There's some things that I did well, but I think there's a lot of mistakes here to talk about, mostly to do with my positioning and CD usage. Obviously, the mechanics are going to be clunky. Coach mechanics, I don't play the game enough. But you can already see versus the enemy composition that there's double hit scan, there's Diva, there's Zenyatta. There's a lot of things that I'm gonna have to be careful for. So right now you need to ask yourself, given what I see here and given the map, what do I think is gonna make the most sense? Am I gonna be able to set up any crazy deep flanks? Am I gonna be able to go for that Reaper flank play style? Am I gonna be able to go for the Sojourn soft off angle and spam? Now some of you may be going, oh, I know the answer. You need to go for the flanks because it's hit scan. Well, but what does the map really give me? Am I going to be able to set up any crazy deep flank all the way into the spawn? Is that going to work? I mean, maybe that's worth a shot, but versus the Diva, that might just get bullied out. Maybe that will take too long. Maybe that's too deep for me. So actually, this is where, again, you have to see what is given. And right now, what's given is honestly, I might have to Sojourn off angle. So you're asking yourself, okay, well, then how do you do that versus hit scan? Don't they just poke you out? Well, yeah, you're going to have to be really smart with your cover usage. I'm going to need to be really smart with my concussive blast usage. I might try to use my concussive blast to pull the Ashe off the high ground, to pull the soldier off of high ground. So even though it's not optimal for me, there's still value to be found. So my team manages the cap first point miraculously. And I think the big thing for me is now that the map has opened up, how am I going to utilize my flank playstyle? Because I can still spam from situations like these and knock them off. But crucially here, because the point has opened up a little bit, I have more options here to take more aggressive flanks. I can utilize the cover of the buildings. I can go even underneath them. The key thing is about when do I need to be doing that? So here I'm going to be looking to try and take aggressive positions for me to be able to spam down from the high ground. But if they do retake that high ground, how am I going to take off angles to take those positions back? How am I going to take off angles to scare them off? And crucially, how am I going to be able to maintain distance away from that Diva? Because that Diva is a huge problem. So as we're walking forward, I'm going to be using my cooldown, slowly walking forward, taking space. As long as I have high ground, can spam down, I don't necessarily need to be walking forward. That jump jet didn't make a whole lot of sense, honestly. I need to be playing a lot smarter. Like I think in general, the big thing with Pharah is that especially into hit scan, there's a lot of flexibility with how you can play, like diving in or spamming in when you have high ground, you can spam down on them. But if I'm going to be going for that Reaper play style, right? The big thing is that you need to be really smart with my cover usage and be really smart with my cooldowns. This jump jet right here is really totally unnecessary. And so what ends up happening is I take damage from the Ashe because I'm basically playing in the open. This conk as well doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I don't even combo it well with my rockets, so it ends up letting the Moira escape for no reason. And then because I'm still down HP from jump jetting earlier, because I'm not tracking the enemy's hit scan positioning, and notice as well that I'm playing almost like a Sojourn playstyle, like holding that off angle and spamming, when in reality, like this hit scan is taking position away from me. This is where I need to be sneaking up behind and looking to dive this Ashe, or sneaking up here and trying to dive this Ashe, or even sneaking up from this angle here and trying to dive this Ashe. But because I've wasted my cooldowns, because I've not tracked the Ashe's positioning and not utilized good cover, by the time I see her, it's kind of too late. She hits a really nice shot at me and then the bot finishes me off. But it's like little mistakes like that where like I did not quickly transition to flank on them. And then I end up kind of playing out in the open. The idea with Pharah is that it's in many ways, you're going to find yourself dying more if you play too passive, if you play too far away. Sometimes, if the map allows it for you, you're going to need to be able to take more aggressive flanks. Now, that might change, again, if they're on Tracer or Sombra or Reaper, but versus what I'm playing right now, double hit scan, so Zenyatta, as long as I can stay away from that Diva, I need to be taking more aggressive flanks, and I get punished for not taking them. And then even here, so my team is running a Moira Lucio composition, and they're calling to rotate onto the enemy backline here. I think I take my angle here too early. I think, again, I'm trying to Sojourn, spam, boop them off of high ground, but all I actually had to do is I could have rotated with my concussive blast and dash here, and rotated with my team all the way up to this high ground, and then done the Reaper flank, wrapping around behind the building. I'll actually play it a little bit longer so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So as my team takes the elevator, I can actually wrap all the way around to their spawn and come up behind them. And because I have conk, because I fly faster with my fuel, and because I have my dash, I can actually make that rotation with them. Old Pharah never could have done that. Old Pharah would not have gone far enough for that to actually work. New Pharah can absolutely rotate with her team and then split off last second. And so again, I'm finding myself in these Sojourn off-angle spam situations where I am saving my dash just in case a D.Va goes for me, but I'm so far away. I'm giving that hit scan so much respect because I have to, that by the time I get here, and again, I'm still spamming, like it just doesn't matter. Like I haven't contributed anything to this fight. So again, it's more of this Sojourn off-angle spam situation when I need to be rotating with my team and then taking a deeper flank later, contributing more to the team fight. So we finally moved the card to the back point of third, and now I have to make a really important decision. The question is this off-angle powerful enough to just passively poke from? Or am I going to have to try and roll the dice and go through the stairs and do something a lot more aggressive? Now, I can already tell a lot of you guys are going to be like, well, you probably need, it's just too deep. You need to actually kind of just poke here and kind of, but I actually realized that this doesn't work. You generally have such a positional disadvantage at the start of this point that it would have been better for me to be sneaky, be weird, try to bait attention, and maybe even just die on this flank using cover, trying to bait attention just so that my team could break the choke. And because what ended up happening is, yes, my mechanics weren't as good as they were, but I actually couldn't peek there at all without getting poked out instantaneously. And so this leads to a huge problem with where, okay, if there's no solution, but I'm not really doing anything anyway. So if I die on the flank, creating space, maybe getting a kill, that's better than living on an angle where I'm actually not even doing anything pressure-wise. Now, this angle was very awkwardly played by me, but this could have been better because this could have been a more Sojourn playstyle because of where the hit scan I've rotated. I could have actually messed up here. I could have just held this barrier here, or this corner here, and spammed easily here without actually diving because they were right there and accessible. And so this again kind of points to what I was saying earlier, where you can't just memorize, oh, Coach Spilo said to take that deep flank on Pharah. Well, maybe. It depends on the situation, depends on where they're positioned. If the hit scan were not there and we're flanking all the way around on the right side, then this wouldn't have made no sense. This would have provided almost no value. Because they were closer, it was an option that I took. And if I'd played this one better, I would have lived and crucially would have actually killed the target as well. So now because we have positional advantage on defense, I have to ask myself a really important question. How much aggression do I really need? What flanks are even available to me? Again, similar to first point attack, there actually aren't really all that many flanks that I can take. So it's gonna be more about, okay, hopefully not getting too close to D.Va, but mostly about just taking an off angle and spamming, and saving a cooldown for them to push me with. And I like this angle here. Sometimes it can be hard for the new team to see, for my team to see me, but it does allow me a pretty good angle, pretty good spam angle, and I can spam on both chokes, holding that flank away from Sojourn. And then if D.Va pushes me, and as long as I have dash or conk, I should be okay. Now, this is a great example of where I actually have two options available. I can choose, depending on where my tank and team's positions, I can choose if I'd like to just kind of sit off of on the right side over here and poke out. I can poke this guy out and then just spam down here on down main for free. But I also have a Reaper flank available to me. And because they're still on hit scan, they're on Soldier Bastion, and they have really nothing to contest the high ground easily, I can wait for my team to walk forward and then sneakily flank behind, cause a lot of just chaos, and then just immediately disengage this way. I don't have a lot of sustain from my team, so I need to be careful, but it is an option if I perform it mechanically well. The timing here is the crucial thing. I think I'm going way too early here. Yeah, see, I'm going ahead of my team. And this is a great example of a good play gone wrong because I walked forward in front of my team. I didn't check my tank's positioning. So my tank was not quite ready yet. So everybody in the enemy team is setting up and focusing me down, which then means I not only lose the flank, I almost die for it. And in fact, I actually do die for it a few seconds later. But the key thing there was just poor timing for me. So you can have a great position, but if you don't synchronize the pressure with your team, then your team's going to lose. Obviously, definitely an awkward match for me, but I do think it's a good example of how different positional choices are available. And that not just, oh, they're on hit scan, so I have to position this way, but like, what does the map provide you? Like, what does the situation provide to you? Do you have support? If so, you can maybe be a little bit more aggressive with your position. Do you not have support? Okay, well then I take aggressive off angles, but I time them better. But the more important thing is that the new Pharah is a success in my mindset, because there are actually so many more interesting discussion points about how and where I could have positioned and what choices I could have made that just weren't there with old Pharah. It was pretty dynamic, but oh, I didn't have a mercy pocket, so I couldn't do anything, or I had a mercy pocket, so I had to carry. But now there's actually so many different things of just distracting and surviving. I could have positioned there, I couldn't have positioned there, I could have tried that, or I should have rocket jumped there, or no, I used my dash for that, but I should use my conk for that and save my. And there's all these discussions that just were not there with old Pharah. And I think that regardless of how strong new Pharah is, she might not be all that strong. She is a lot more interesting to play and a lot more interesting to play against. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Enjoy your day.